morning, everyone. I'm glad you're here. And let's give a warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, Baris, Dilek, Lego, Magdalena, Kubisa, BLIK, Matthias, Frechen, Allegro, Marta, Wrochna-Łastowska, Żabka Group. So we will talk about creating value. And I think we need to start with this basic thing. What creates the biggest value for customers nowadays? Is it, I don't know, technology, marketing, user experience? And what do you understand from your experiences as value? Baris,
I need to start. Okay,
yeah,
I'll do it.
Start.
Okay, it's an interesting point to start because I'm from an industry which is about entertainment and toys and the play. And what we are realizing is biggest value that today parents value much is time of play. What they say, 90% of the parents they say is that play is the most important thing for their kids' development, for their cognitive skills, social skills, all these motoric skills development. The other thing that we realize is that quarter of the parents think they don't spend enough time for their kids to play actually. And what is very important for Lego Group is we value the play and we would like to bring experiences for kids to explore their skills and the talents, and this is what we do through the play. There's another aspect that I want to say. Yesterday, actually, I was sitting in the stage and listening like what changed after COVID. And there are a few things changed after COVID in terms of the time the people spent. During COVID times, cinemas were closed. All these external entertainment was not possible to do. So what people realize is that the importance of the family time. So they come at home. They were locked, they couldn't do anything else, and Lego was there basically to help to spend time together as a family. And we realized that this trend was settled during the COVID and it still continues, and people value their time as a family more and more. And last aspect I want to speak about is it's not only about the we time as a family, but as well the me time. Especially for adults, what we are realizing is due to the stress of the daily life, due to stress of all the hectic basically rush that they have through the day, what we are realizing is they want to spend time for their hobbies. This hobby could be doing some handcraft at home, or this hobby could be building a Lego at home, basically. And you might be aware of our recent botanical sets, actually, that this is kind of unlocking people's passion that they can be at home, they can build something, they can a bit disconnect from the day-to-day life. And we are realizing that all these trends, so the importance of play, me time, and we time, these are the ones that these are bringing the biggest value to the people.
Michał, you ask what is more important. You ask technology, UX, or safety. I think that all of that elements are enablers. And the most important is how all of them are orchestrated to give a real customer experience. The experience which is emotionally engaging, which is time efficient. At Żabka, what we see, we do not see the value anymore in one-off purchases. We see the value in the repeatable moments with our customers. And it may be across the value chain. So it can be like through the convenience shopping at our stores, when you can find when you can save your time, you can find the new healthy products, but it can be also by rapid delivery with Q-commerce or with like fractionless experience at our autonomous stores. So all of that creates the value, I think for the customers. And from my perspective as CFO, what is important is that what customers value also creates the value from the company perspective, from the long-term perspective, through retention, through frequency, through loyalty with our customers. And therefore, it is important that when we treat the investment in tech, the investment in the store innovation, in digital, not only as costs, but also as the foundation for the future growth of the company, because it gives us the return from the longer term perspective.
Yeah, and I'd very much agree to the point of it's how all these things play together, right? I mean, if you look at retail or e-commerce more specifically, it's really the combination of what I call retail fundamentals, which kind of creates the magic, right? So that you have a very broad and really relevant assortment, that you have low prices, that you have an easy to understand and fast shopping experience, that you have fast delivery, right? That you're the trusted place to go to, where you also know in case something goes wrong, I'm covered. And then how all of these things are orchestrated. I think this is really what then creates the customer experience, which customers come back to, right? I fully agree. Like the value is really in customers kind of increasing their frequency, shopping in more and more categories with you. At the same time, from my perspective, I have to choose one of those fundamentals, I would say it's probably price, which is almost the most important one, especially in the current time, right? It's a tough economic situation. I think things kind of are changing. So we do see customers are increasingly even more looking for value, great deals. We even see that with some of the competitors, they're willing to trade in convenience or speed of delivery for price, right? I mean, this whole story about kind of Chinese platforms entering, I think that's also part of it. And the other thing I think also worth pointing out, I believe customers, well, retail fundamentals, I believe stay the same, right? Kind of, no customer will ever say, gee, I bought the product at a higher price, or wish I would have bought it at a higher price. I think the environment is changing in a sense that especially younger generations are shopping differently, right? If I kind of, look at kind of, my nephews, nieces, and so on, it's like completely different to how I shop. And we really need to raise the bar on that shopping experience. And also social commerce kind of, is an important topic. And then, of course, AI commerce, which will be down the road.
And Magda represents the company that benefits the volume of all your companies.
Exactly, I wanted to say that BLIK is a little bit behind that, yes, because if I want to shop in any of these places, I need a payment method. So my perspective maybe is a little bit different, but I agree that price, especially in the CEE region, is quite important, and it's important not to have hidden costs. But what I see as a biggest value for customer in payments is that it should be best user experience, it should be convenient, it should be easy, it should take some problem effort out of my head, yes? It should be something that happens really simple for the customer. As a customer, I want you to save my time, to save my effort, save my stress, so that I can have this me time or we time, yes, and not bother with the payments in a long way.
How can you integrate those values and focus on certain specific things into the strategy? Because all of your companies are huge, and it's not that easy to integrate the mindset of creating this value into the company. So how can also smaller companies do that?
I think from my perspective, what I want to say is that what is crucial in our perspective is Lego company was created almost 100 years ago with a certain mission of, delivering the best for the kids. Leggat means play well in Danish, in case any Danish speakers in the room. So I think the company was created first around the value, and then profit, revenue, all the financial terms followed, basically. So I think in Lego Group, it's relatively, easier, because today's trend and where the company was created, what are the fundamentals of the company, are very well matching with each other, basically. So, answering your question, Michał, I think what I can advise is that first you need to know your mission, why you exist as a company, and then you should see how you can match these values to the trends of today's customers, actually.
I would say that in whatever company you're working, it's big or small, really think from this perspective of value. Don't switch maybe your thinking from giving more features to the customers into giving something what customers really want and what they really need. So if you're investing in something new, think, will your customer want to use it? Think and also treat like the voice of the customers, like really important asset of your company. So if you do something new, test it with your customers, look what are the real life behaviors and follow that path. So for example, our new products, investments in BLIK are buy now, pay later that we delivered last year, and this is something that gives the freedom to the customers because they can shop now, buy, pay in 30 days, so they are not struggling with the account balance right here and right now. What we are launching right now is recurring payments, with which we want to bring the easy, secure way that customers are already used to do with the one-time payments. We want to give it to subscriptions, which are also more and more important in the current times.
And I would very much agree to that, what I would call like working backwards from the customer, right? So really understand what kind of, your customer wants, try to anticipate trends in the market, and also especially when it comes to younger customer generations, what they really kind of, how they shop, what they want, and avoid the trap of kind of, a solution looking for a problem, right? Really start with the problem and then work backwards to the solution.
I think from I'm CFO, so I may like touch on the financial perspective a little bit. So from the financial and strategic glance, I think that the strategy is successful when it delivers today, adopts for tomorrow, and also earns the right to reinvest in the future. One of the most powerful concepts I have come across, which resonates very well also with our experiences Żabka, is from Professor Charles O'Reilly at Stanford. He explains that for organization it is very important to be ambidextrous. So to exploit the core and in the same time to explore the future growth avenues. And this duality, it is something what we really develop at Żabka. When you think about the Żabka group, we have this our core engine. So we have our stores in Poland, which we develop and which provides wonderful return. And in the same time, we invest in the digital businesses. So in Q-commerce, for example, we invest in the autonomous stores, but also invest in international, in Romania recently, to give us this long-term perspective. And based on the research which were performed, the companies which have a strong hold for the which are able to change, they provide better results across a number of metrics. They have better revenue growth, net profit growth, but also they have better recommendation from analysts to buy the stock. So given that, I would say when we look on the value, customer is important, but what is also important is the culture of the company. And the culture is like the ability of the company to react quickly on change, to allow for experimentation. And therefore, when I think about the growth value drivers and the KPIs which are important to measure to ensure that we deliver value, the current KPIs are important. So like all that, the financial KPIs like return on capital, like EBITDA growth, but also the people KPIs are important, are for example, the employee engagement, the resilience, the company's ability to adapt without losing control. So in other words, when we have this exploit and explore engines and they contribute simultaneously, I think that's when the value is created for the longer term. It's what we see at Żabka.
Can I add up to this core point actually you brought, because this was very interesting. In Lego company, of course, I was not employed by Lego company 23 years ago, but what company faced is that they realized they were moving away from core of the company, which is the Lego brick, and they were going to the different industries, different sectors, and all of a sudden company started losing its perception towards the end users. And what company did is going back to the core, which is the brick itself, and build whole business around the brick, keeping the core, boosting the core, and then doing the innovation around the core, and that's moved the company today, actually, from that moment.
Yeah, exactly. You need to have always both at the same time.
You are all talking about somehow anticipating and experimenting. How can you assess the idea? Because obviously you can test something, right? You come up with an innovation, you do the tests, and it shows you if customers either like it or not. But before you start the experiment, you need to assess the idea. How can companies do it effectively? How can they anticipate that, okay, this will work, but this won't work?
In my view, it's, I mean, first of all, you're right, and kind of, you won't find the solution by just asking the customer, right? I mean, kind of, there's also this saying, like, if you would have asked customer 100 years ago, I don't know, probably by now 130, 40 years ago, what they want, they would have told you faster horses, not a car, right? So I think what's important is don't start with the idea, start with the problem, right? Where the problem back then is like kind of, transportation, more faster, more convenient transportation, and then work several hypotheses on how you can address it, and then you need to test a lot, right? And I think the fact is probably 9 out of 10 of those things won't turn out to be a great idea, but kind of, then hopefully one works, and this is what you really make big. And I think also I really like what you said on kind of, ambidextrous, and I'll probably steal that. I think that's the biggest kind of mistake I believe you can make as a company, not having those bets, not having a lot of experiments, right? And I believe the bigger the company, the more bets you need to have, and you need to have that willingness that to accept that 9 out of the 10 will fail.
Any other ideas on experimenting?
I mean, I fully agree with Matthias that you need to focus on what problem can you solve for the customer and think about how can you make it easier for the customer what he is facing. Yes, and this is how you can really assess if the idea will work. Yes, how you can anticipate. Yes, if you're solving some problem, if you're helping the customer.
Real trial is the best way of testing. We are launching every year 400 products. Some of them works very well, some of them don't. Even though we test all of them and we believe all of them will work, sometimes kids don't like it, sometimes adults don't like it. And sometimes the SKUs, the products that we expect, okay, who will like this one? And all of a sudden, it creates a demand. So what I would agree is that you need to try as much as possible, and then some of them will work for you.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have always customers in the center. So when we have our stores, we treat them not only as a retail points currently, but we treat them as a strategic touch points with our customers. We often say that we are as a Swiss Army knife for the customers to provide them different options depending on the needs. And I think if customers is in the middle, then it gives a right optic. And then you can choose the KPIs, and if you have culture which supports the experimentation, I think it should build up the good growth for the future.
You were mentioning KPIs a lot, so we need to ask about it. What kind of indicators are the most important for your companies, for you, to see that you are actually creating value? Because you've mentioned retention, time spent on something. So which ones, how do you manage those KPIs of customer satisfaction?
Well, I think you're probably even in a better position to answer that, but like is that something which kind of works pretty well for me? It's kind of like the mental model of outputs and inputs, right? I mean, outputs ultimately it's your sales, your GMV, your profitability, and I believe this is ultimately the hard currency, right? At the same time, you can make the mistake of over prioritizing those and exactly what you described, right? You kind of sacrifice your future to deliver the next quarter, the next year, or whatever. Then the other part of it, which I personally believe are way more important, are the inputs, right? Which and they're like a gazillion, right? I mean, for example, for Allegro, we have a deck like this thick, which we review every week with NPS, number of customers, what's their frequency, how many partners do we have, what's the sale on average, and essentially then you need to build that model and also know how those inputs then translates into the output. And that's also what I keep telling my teams. focus on the inputs, right? And eventually the outcome, the outputs will come.
Yeah, I think important is to have like the KPIs, like some of them may be financial, some of them may be non-financial. That should be KPIs which are customer-centric, but also what I have already mentioned, but I will repeat that because I think it is very important to have also KPIs which measure the people engagement, which measure the culture in the organization, because it was said, I think, today in the morning that currently the economy, the environment is changing very quickly, and the most important thing is to react quickly on changes. And only if we have engaged people, we may achieve that. So we can, choose whatever KPIs we want, but we need to have the team who will be involved, engaged, taking responsibility, and we may really, have this organization who will react quickly on the changing world. So this is important, I think.
I think it's the most important input of all.
And you mentioned all these hard KPIs as well, like sales, retention, and so on. I would add to this that the ultimate result is when the customer is inviting the product, the brand, to his everyday life, and it really becomes the habit. And I think that all of us, as we're sitting here, we were able to really create love brands among the customers. So you're starting with giving real value, you're starting with giving experience. At the end, you're able to reach this level that you get the love brand of the customer.
And Baris, you can't check the playtime at Lego.
Actually, you can check the playtime because we are doing multiple studies to understand like how much kids like to play with Lego, how much time they spend. So this is one of the metrics, obviously, but I just want to go back to Matthias' point on the input versus output. Financial results are always the output, but you just need to clearly define what are the input ones influencing that. And for instance, what I would like to mention in the Lego perspective is that we measure how much kids desire our particular sets. And if we see the desire is lagging down or dropping, maybe parents would keep shopping those products for one more year, but eventually they will realize their kids are not into those sets anymore. And we will stop being relevant, actually. So that's why we also measure, for instance, desire of the kids towards our Lego products.
How you measure that?
Well, there are multiple internal studies that we do. Of course, this is difficult to basically explain in terms of like the results. But what we do is like we are asking multiple kids, hundreds of kids around the world, and we try to see how they perceive our sets, what they like about our sets, what they don't like about our sets, and accordingly we make our judgment that, okay, desire of the kids is going towards the positivity, or there's a stagnation, or there's a decline.
So a lot of science behind buying the Legos. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Baris, Dilek, Magdalena, Kubisa, Matthias, Frechen, Marta, Wrochna-Łastowska. Thank you.
Thank you.